Last time on the WizardCast.
Wow, I could have sworn that looked a lot smaller on the outside.
Never mind that, Mark. We have to record the Spring 20 release notes episode, and then we can resume our search for who booked Parker Harris.
What, another release notes episode, Brian? I mean, it feels like only yesterday that we did one of these.
That's because it was only yesterday.
Huh?
Look on the date on the computer.
September 17th, 2019? Brian, you got some splaining to do.
That nice blue box we're just in, it's a time machine. Remember when the last release notes episode was?
I think it was episode 99, which would have been
the episode before Parker Harris. So whoever did the booking, it must have been close to, well, now.
That's actually kind of brilliant, Brian.
Thank you, Mark. I don't ever hear that, really, ever.
Just one thing, though. You didn't build this big blue time machine.
No.
So who'd you get it from?
Not important right now.
No?
No.
Then why are there a bunch of robots heading straight for us? Find the imposters! Provide optimal skin care! Exfoliate! Exfoliate! We gotta run, Brian! They're out to expose skin's freshest layer!
Back to the box! Get back to the box!
And now the conclusion of the WizardCast.
I'm Brian Kwong.
And I'm Mark Ross.
We're Salesforce experts that love talking about technology and Salesforce.
We also love humor. Doesn't mean we're actually good at it.
In the Salesforce community, I'm known as the Salesforce Wizard, likely due to me wearing a wizard hat at Salesforce events.
And I'm known as Salesforce Yoda for pretty much the same reason.
You should see the ears.
We have a passion to help educate and entertain people.
So we've joined forces to create WizardCast.
We've got tips and best practices.
We talk with interesting people.
All mixed with quote-unquote jokes and humor.
Welcome to the WizardCast. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Doctor.
Doctor?
It's for the people who didn't quite get the plot.
Yeah, no, I got that. Doctor Who.
Yeah, so anyways, if you have a joke, which has got to be better than the one we just did, you can submit it to us, too. You can email wizard@thewizardnews.com. Or if you would like your voice on our show, you can also leave a voicemail by calling 608-492-0321. Just make sure you tell us your name so we can give you the credit you deserve.
Anyway, Brian,
Mark,
after that, I think it's time for us to talk about some release notes.
Yes.
Actually, it's kind of past time to talk about release notes.
Look, we technically started this on time, and then things happened in the space-time continuum. It's not my fault. It's not my fault.
Things happen, you mean that the time machine completely threw us out of whack.
Yeah, it's not my fault. I mean, you just can't you just can't predict these things. It's
3 whole weeks of my life gone, Brian. I missed my daughter's birthday, Brian, because of this.
She didn't miss her birthday, so she'll be fine.
Let's just do the release notes, okay?
Well, I have some good news.
Okay.
For some special features, they finally managed to save enough money in their 401k to retire.
And which features are those?
Customizable forecasting and the original territory management. They are gone.
Gone.
They're out on the sand.
Get out of here.
They're going to be relaxing in the sun, thinking back of the fond times when Quick Create was a thing.
Or they're going to be relegated to some sort of dark and depressing home where they'll just silently live out the rest of their days.
Yeah. I do want to talk about 2 kind of really big things that have the potential to really mess up your org.
Okay.
The first one has to deal with custom settings and custom metadata.
You're talking about critical updates.
Yeah, so this is something that's on now.
Right.
And that is users have to have explicit permission to read, to view the data in a custom setting or custom metadata. Okay, those custom settings and custom metadata that get used in apps, people still need to have access to be able to utilize them, to read them, even if they're not looking at the custom settings directly. So, for example, Conga. Conga is an app that has custom settings and custom metadata as, well, settings. And if a user doesn't have access to those custom settings, things in Conga don't work right. So our Conga customers probably got an email out a couple weeks ago with instructions to do that. But that applies to pretty much anything that is pulling custom settings and custom metadata in a manner that is not, doing it from the system without sharing type context.
Right. And this is specifically, I believe, requests that are coming from APIs. Now, an API can be an external API, it can be an internal API, it can be Apex using APIs, it can be connected applications, it can be integrated applications.
Right. So now either they have to have customized app, which we don't want to be giving people customized app.
Do not give your users customized application. Don't do it.
System admins, which because they have customized app, but we don't want to do that. But now you can explicitly give permission to certain custom settings or custom metadata through profiles and permission sets, which is the way to go. So it's a really easy fix. All you have to do is create a permission set or update the profiles. I went the permission set route personally to assign, hey, here's the required custom setting access or custom metadata, and just assigned it out to users, and you're done.
Yeah, because you can do that for, if you're just doing it through integrations, you can do it through your integration user, and just for them. If you're doing it on a broader spectrum, like for an application that's connected, then yeah, you'd have to grant it to all those people.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to how are you using it, and that's kind of tough to know how you're using the custom metadata. But if something stopped working that was working, that's a place to look.
Okay. We got a lot to cover in not a lot of time. So do we want to cover other critical updates real quick?
Yeah. So external sharing model is basically being set. So you need to make sure that you've got all that wonderful stuff updated. If you have like a public site that people are accessing or potentially, I think that includes like the community user if they're non-authenticated. It has to deal with what they can actually do. So,
right. And this is being enforced right as of this release, right?
Right. So if I remember correctly, they can see records, but they may not be able to edit records.
Right. Other things we've got going on, we've got some new critical updates that aren't going to be enforced just yet. There's one actually for data access and flow formulas.
Yep.
We got another one, flows respecting access modifiers for legacy Apex, if you've got legacy Apex. I'm only mentioning it because we tend to be pretty flow heavy. This is kind of an interesting one, requiring permission to view the record names in lookup fields. So in other words, without this permission that is being added via this critical update, users will not be able to see, like, let's say you have a contact that belongs to an account, but if you haven't given them permission, theoretically, I don't think you can actually do this, but theoretically, if you hadn't given the permission to see account names, then they wouldn't be able to see the account name in that contact lookup.
Huh.
It's just another way of protecting data.
Interesting. And that is something that gets applied to both latent and classic.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got here. Some other things that are going to be enforced. Being able to open hyperlinks in formula fields correctly, so that actually will recognize the target value.
That would be nice.
That'll be nice. What else is kind of a critical thing? There's a lot of Apex stuff. If you're really big into Apex, you should really go check those out.
Yeah, the new mobile app.
The new mobile app, yeah, that's a big one. We'll talk a bit more about that. And then the whole thing about turning on Lightning Experience. This one actually already activated probably by now. You should be seeing it at the end of January. But yeah, that was kind of a big thing.
Leaving critical updates, one of the features that I'm tentatively excited is going in the GA is that in-app guidance feature.
That's nice.
Yeah, it's nice. I'm a little disappointed because of some of the restrictions that Salesforce put on of how it can be used. So, for example, there's a restrictions of the number of pop-ups a user can receive in a period of time, and that includes things that you build custom or the standard stuff. So I was originally going to use in-app guidance to help guide a bunch of new people into Lightning, but they would never see any of the stuff because Salesforce's own Lightning pop-ups, hey, have you tried Lightning in Service Cloud or whatever, pop up first, and then that fills up the quota for that day.
Now, there is the ability, though, to change that amount of time. I don't know, because this is new in this version. You can actually change the delay between prompts. And I'm not certain how low you can go. Frankly, the release notes don't say. It says you can specify up to 99 hours and 59 minutes. It doesn't, and it says the default is once every 24 hours. It doesn't say if you can reduce it to 0 or not.
Right.
So that's at least something that's coming in this release. Also, the in-app guidance there, you can actually specify what profiles get access to it,
Which is nice.
and you can add videos to your in-app guidance as well. That's nice.
Or maybe links to audio podcasts.
Indeed. I don't know. That's not specified in the release notes.
But you should totally
It's
try
very
that out
funny.
in production
Totally
with the
try
link
that
to the
out.
WizardCast, obviously.
Exactly. There's another big thing we should talk about, though, in terms of access and issues. I think we've mentioned it briefly before. There's another critical update related to it, and that's same-site cookie behavior. Chrome is not doing the best. Well, no, let me rephrase that. Chrome is really going crazy for security, which is good. We like security. Security is important. But they're making changes in Chrome, specifically 80 or later, that are going to cause issues for Salesforce. And so there is they're making changes. They're going to be requiring you to use HTTPS instead of HTTP. HTTP will not be an option if you are in Chrome. There's a critical update for that, as well as for other kind of same-site security fixes.
I mean, you should be using HTTPS anyways.
Yeah, you really should. So that's something you want to take care of. There's a few steps to take. Again, release notes have a lot of good information about that. HTTPS is kind of the big one. The other big one you have to worry about is Salesforce integrations. You have to make sure that they are going to function as well, particularly if you're doing anything like curl or something like that, which is going to try and access via some kind of Chromium hook or something like that.
All right, let's talk about something that is kind of interesting. That is, and I got Chester. I can't say free. I can't say it's free.
Right.
A Salesforce employee corrected me that it is included with your edition license price, and that is opportunity scores.
Free with your existing. Okay, was it? Sorry.
Opportunity scores. Einstein.
Yes. This is a big deal.
It is a big deal. Kind of. It depends on how big your organization is and how much opportunities you have, because you still needs a minimum amount of data to be really useful. And in the release notes, I don't think it says like how much data you really need. I've heard you need at least 6 months worth, and in a number of records that is in the thousands.
Well, so actually, that has now been reduced. That is also in the release notes. So previously, you used to need to have at least 1,000 closed opportunities in the last 2 years. Now you only need 400 closed opportunities within the last 2 years, half of which are closed won. Well,
Okay.
that's substantially
easier. The other thing is, it's not just a turn it on and you're done. I mean, it is machine learning. Every org is going to be a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
So you are going to want to evaluate the output when you first turn it on and probably adjust the model a little bit to make it more org specific.
Other sales features that we've got. Forecasts are getting a bit of a bump. You can actually now do a multi-line edit in forecasts. So you can actually update your opportunities from the forecast in line, multiple lines at a time.
Right.
That's pretty nice.
And we talked about last time being able to access opportunity contact rules for triggers. And
so nice.
now it's available in the other automation tools, workflow, process builder, flow.
Yay! Love it. This is interesting. This is something that actually now makes a fair amount of my previous presentations at Dreamforce obsolete, because now there is a button to clone opportunities or campaigns with their related records. It's actually clone with related is the button, or action, I guess is what it technically is. And it literally allows you to say, I'm going to clone opportunity. Then it pops up and says, all right, do you want to also, while you're cloning your opportunity, do you also want to include all your contact roles or all of your products? And if you're doing products, do you want to do line item scheduling too? That's pretty sweet.
Now I haven't tried it myself, but I have heard that it's not going to be cloning field values for fields that are not on the page layout. So
that's also good.
Potentially.
That's
one of those things that can go either way. Depends on what the field is and how you're using it.
In my experience, like that's really good because it means that things like approval values that you have hidden don't get, so they have to be reapproved. I think that's for the best, personally.
It's something to wear us because sometimes there might be a really valid use for the fact that you have a field that's being filled in. Say that you're predefining a field through like a record create or something like that, and it's something that's just behind the scenes. Well, that's not going to get carried over when it gets cloned. And it's just something to be aware of. The thing that I'm really more excited about using this is the campaigns with member status, because it is so annoying to have to rebuild your own custom member statuses over and over and over and over again.
That's really good. And frankly, our flow presentations wouldn't have worked very well for something like that because, when you have a campaign with a massive amount of members, sometimes your flows just wouldn't be able to handle the load. Right. So this is for the better. Something else coming, and you know what? This is kind of multi-pronged. You'll actually be able, this is so cool, to customize account team and opportunity team related lists.
Which means those fields that you would like to see without having to click into each
those
team
custom
members,
fields we just now got to add as of the last release.
You can now show on the related lists or in the hover.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of weird that they didn't. You can add custom fields. No, you can't show them. Okay.
Agile. It's agile.
It's agile. Yeah, I know. And going along with this is also kind of really big news, and we kind of really skipped over it. And that is, since we're talking about related lists, enhanced related lists.
What's an enhanced related list?
They're GA. It's a related. So when you're actually doing your related lists on your records, you can select a type of enhanced list. This is coming from Lightning. And it will let you do things like showing how many records you want to display at once. Do you want to show the list view action bar along with there as well? There's a lot more control you have over this. Showing up to 10 columns, resizing columns, mass actions, wrapping text. They're basically like all the stuff that you would normally get with list views, except now in your related lists.
And to be clear, that is a component modification on the Lightning page.
Yeah, this is definitely Lightning.
Yeah.
Definitely Lightning. We're kind of at the point now where you have to assume that everything we say is Lightning unless we say otherwise. Real quick, a couple of things that are more like advanced admin, if we're going by the certification, but have been very useful for certain people. Territories can now be in account reports,
which seems really weird that they couldn't be before.
Oh, and it was a deal breaker in some of my previous work. Like, it's like, territories. Yeah, this sounds good. What can we do with it? Well, you can't actually include territory information in reports. Well, that's kind of what we need actually to be functional. So that's a huge deal. It does not happen in the account reports that come out of the box, or the report types that come out of the box. You have to make a new custom report type for it. But it's absolutely possible now.
You can manage your dated exchange rate, so currency management, without having to go back to Classic. So that's finally in Lightning.
Yep. Anytime you don't have to go back to Classic, that's a good thing. And we got a bunch of changes to email as well, don't we, Brian?
Yes, we do. So you can schedule and manage emails in Lightning Experience.
And what does that mean exactly?
So
like
a sales
send
rep
at a specific time?
Well, yeah, a sales rep can schedule an email to arrive at the start of a contact's workday.
Nice.
Right. The schedule email component also lets the rep update what's in the email itself, as well as change the scheduled date and time.
Now, looking at the release notes, this may be something that requires either high velocity sales or inbox.
Yeah, it's users with use inbox user permission available in the high velocity sales or inbox license.
Yeah, so I don't think this is probably available to most customers then, unless they're using those things, which is unfortunate. Maybe they'll bring it in. They're bringing in Einstein stuff that was previously they were charging for. So
they're still charging for it. It's just included in your edition license price.
Right. You would think
how about this?
At that.
This is something that is not specific to inbox, and that's email threading.
What is email threading?
So the activity history component, you remember it just goes through and just lists out every single task or email that happened, just in one long list. Well, now it will thread them. So if you look at the list, you will actually see, oh, here's an email with 3 replies. And then you can expand out that thread to show
and they're indented.
Yes.
Yeah, so you can actually see.
It collapses the space a little bit of the activity timeline.
Oh, that's so good.
While still making things accessible and visible.
Anytime you can collapse that space, that's really nice. What else we got?
Well, let's just cue this up.
Thank you for the transition, Brian, because queues are now applicable to tasks. This is something that burned me in the past. This is a big deal. Like, I can't tell you how many people wanted this.
And so for folks who aren't familiar with Q is something that's been out in the system for a long time.
Right.
It's kind of like a pseudo owner. It's intended to be representative of a group of people, not a specific user. And so a lot of objects will let you assign to either a user or to a queue. The one thing I'm a little concerned about with this change is it's still one field. So like if for process builder, it doesn't really matter because it actually discreetly gives you owner, queue, owner, user as an option to select. But if you're using like Apex code and you were doing something like take the owner of the task and make them the owner of a new record that you're creating, and that record doesn't support queues, you'll need to you may want to check that to make sure it still works if it fires off of a task that's owned by a queue, because otherwise you'll get an owner ID that isn't a user ID and things may go bad.
And some of you may be out there thinking, wait a second, I thought we already had this. And because this confused me and my friends quite a bit back in the day. It's not that you had the ability to do queues. You had the ability to do groups. But unfortunately, the way that worked previously is if you assigned a task to a group, it would literally clone the task for each person in that group. So it wasn't a single task. Yeah, it defeats the purpose. So this is like, okay, single task going to a queue, which is a group of people.
So this would be a really great for if you have a group of people who are handling things. So like think of it like an account
even though it's not a group.
Right, an account team of people who are handling things that come in for multiple accounts, right? They're not like specifically assigned. It's just a team that is generically assigned. Something needs to be done. You can create the task, assign it to the queue that represents those groups of users, and then someone in there goes, "Oh, I will do it," and then takes it from the queue and turns it the ownership to them.
Next on the list,
this was beta last time. Now it's generally available to be able to merge cases together within Lightning.
Another thing that we're getting in cases, it looks like if you're looking at a case list view, and I hope they do this with more than just cases, but if you hover over the subject of the case in a case list view, it will actually do a hover pop-up that shows some important fields. That's kind of an interesting thing. Like you can see the priority, the status. I'm sure you can configure this. This is just what they're showing as an example. See the description, whatever the latest update was. For all these things, that's kind of interesting because you can save a lot of space. I mean, in list views, you would get a lot of these things in columns, but maybe you wouldn't be able to get the description very easily. So I can see how this could be really critical for certain like long text fields, which might be more critical to a support area.
URL hacks are back as a supportive feature, kind of somewhat. I've really mixed feelings of this. I went head to head with a couple people at my user group
because your pony.
We spent so many years going, no, URL hacks bad. You go move Lightning, get rid of URL hacks. And what do is they effectively hack their own system. So if you look at how it is, it's only for creating new records. Right. And what I think they're actually doing is taking their own Lightning component and
accepting arguments into it.
Yeah, that's basically what they're doing, because the default field value parameter that's in that URL is the exact same thing you would specify in the Lightning component. But I kind of look at it as, unless you have a really valid use case for using it, don't use them. Because I think it is potentially painful to maintain. One, you can't use them everywhere. There are only specific types of places where you can build this out. It has to be URL encoded.
Right.
So, which means you have to be able to use the function URL encode in order to get rid of things like parentheses and apostrophes and all that wonderful stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So where I see this as beneficial is if you need to create a new record, pass in information that's predefined, and they have to have the full new record page layout. So like you have too many fields to be able to add onto the action layout to be effective, or you just really don't know what are the fields that a person needs to fill in when they're creating new records. That's a reasonable use case. It is not a good use case to say, oh, here's a new feature, I'm just going to do this versus I'm doing a create object action.
Yeah. I mean, I think the difference between the two is, an action, they really try to keep it to a minimum amount of fields. They try to restrict it to a modal. It's not a full page layout. That you have restrictions on what type of fields you can do that with and set defaults with in actions. This is more of a back to the old school of, no, I want the whole create page and I want to be able to populate anything anywhere as default values here. And this is the interesting thing. They actually show in their example that the button includes a formula. Did you see that down at the bottom? So it actually has an if formula in one of the buttons. So custom checkbox equals if the another account checkbox is true, then set this one to false. Like it actually has that in the actual button text.
Well, that's because the button is using the formula functions that are available within Salesforce. I mean, that's why you have the URL encode function there on the account name. It's the same thing as the if statement. It's just a function. Another use case for why you might want to use this is if you want to create a new record that does not have a direct relationship to the record that you're on, but you need to pull information from the record that you're on into the new one.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not creating a child record or something like that, but you want to pull over data from what you're on because there's so many similarities.
Yeah.
But otherwise, don't go, oh my gosh, I have this now. Let's go out and build URL acts instead of using record creates actions instead. Put some thought into why do you want to use one or the other.
Next on our list, real quick, going back to Einstein, another Einstein feature going, well, maybe not free, included with your Enterprise or Unlimited Edition, and that is Einstein article recommendations. So this is the ability basically for Einstein to look at a case and say, hey, based on this case, we think this knowledge article is the best thing to help solve it. So that's something that now is generally available to everybody with those licenses.
As long as your articles are written in English and you have at least 400 articles in your knowledge base.
Right. With Einstein, you always have those kinds of restrictions there. 400 articles in the knowledge base. Whew. Okay, you better hire somebody for that. That's all I'm saying. As a writer, you better hire someone if you need 400 articles. I'm just going to leave it at that. Something else that's a little bit niche, but is pretty interesting. So a few releases ago, they started doing this thing called Salesforce CMS, and it's content management system. And it was kind of a community-only thing. Well, now they're expanding it out where your content that you have in there will now be able to be used in Commerce Cloud, Marketing Cloud, Heroku, as well as the community. So you can actually have a single piece of content that gets shared across all those places and have a single place to manage all that. I think that's actually really interesting. I know this is kind of niche, but it implies that they're moving in a direction that is a more, here's one place to manage all of your customer-facing content, whether that's on a selling website, whether that's part of your email blasts, whether that's part of your website campaigns. You'd be able to manage it all from one place.
Now, there's a bunch of new things coming out for reports, and we're going to go over them a little bit quickly.
Oh, man, there's some good stuff.
There's some really good stuff. One is that the preview is now turned off when you're building reports from default. You have to hit the refresh or turn it on.
I don't like it.
My friend Jen Bowen loves it. It does make building reports faster. I agree with her on that. Hi,
It
Jen.
does.
However, for people who are used to it, it can really confuse them, especially because the toggle and the text are a little small. And
Right.
it doesn't save. So, like, if you really like having the refresh on, you can turn it on. And the next time you build a report, you have to remember to turn it on again.
Yeah, it'd be nice if it remembered, but yeah. This is huge. Okay, something they're adding called field-to-field filters. And what that means is that you can have a filter to show only rows, only records, where one field value is compared to another field value. So in other words, you can say where the amount is greater than the projected amount.
Which is amazing.
Oh my God, this would have solved so many problems for me back in the day.
Yeah, so many horrendous formula fields we've had to create in order to accomplish stuff like this.
Yes, no longer needed.
There's a beta feature out there where you can do report subscriptions as an attached spreadsheet. There's some basic limitations to this right now. It's the max of 2,000 rows. So not a good choice for anything that is going to have more than 2,000 rows right now.
Yep. I think that was in Classic, but it's nice to see it added again. Counting, you now can count unique values in reports. This is also a big deal for certain types of data. Being able to show like, okay, I have a report and I may have 20 records, but it's only 3 different accounts. And that's really key to see.
You used to use Power One for that.
That's true. Now we don't
have.
Oh my God! Now we don't have to.
Yeah, did
that
just click?
Is this the death of the power of one?
Not quite. There's still certain circumstances where it's useful.
Okay. All right.
We're gonna move around.
You scared me, Brian.
Let's talk about the new mobile app, which came out. There's a bunch of new things. That basically it takes the mobile app and makes it more like Lightning.
Yes, which is really awesome.
Yep.
You also get more customization over the footer. So those icons that are at the bottom, you can have a lot more control over what goes there.
It also means that you can define in your Lightning pages if it's available on desktop, phone, or both. The thing that you have to keep in mind is just because you have something that's available as desktop and phone doesn't mean that you can have a completely different layout. The order is the same, the components are the same. It's just one's in a single column, one isn't. Right. So if you truly need to have a completely different layout and look and feel, you're going to create a desktop only page and a phone only page.
You also will now, when you're searching, you'll be able to see some secondary fields related to that search in your search results. So for example, if you search Gary Smith and you end up with 5 different Gary Smiths, that'll now show like what the account name is for each of those Gary Smiths. So you can actually find them.
Flow. We have to talk about Flow before we leave. And there's a lot of really big things for Flow, one of them being the before trigger.
Yeah, we talked about this in a previous episode. This was the episode with Shannon, Hale, and Jason
Taylor.
I thought that was it, and I was
if
like,
only we had a
theme
right. song to help us remember his name.
Jason Taylor.
Okay, that's enough.
But yeah, go check out that episode because we talk about that a lot.
Yep.
And a lot of these things we actually talked about. There was a pretty big deal. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Brian.
so before trigger flows, being able to do things basically before a record gets saved. There's some limitations, some restrictions, but
it's a lot faster, though.
It's a lot faster. Check out the previous episode. Link in the show notes. There's a lot of things that they're doing so you don't have to create your own variables or make it easier so you don't even have to select your own fields. And that's having to do to make Flow more user-friendly, more like a process builder friendly. And there's some really big bonuses to that. Like, for example, if you let Salesforce get all your fields in your get records, you could traverse the relationship later on the flow. So you can go and say, I don't want just the record type ID. I want to go to the record type and get the name.
Yeah, saves you creating variables just for that. It's pretty good stuff. Also, you can now deactivate your flow without having to leave the flow builder. Kind of complementary to the activate that we got last release.
Being able to run it with system with sharing.
That's huge.
So big change is you can have a field now that is hidden from a user through FLS and they can still use it through the flow. But you have to specify that flow should run that way.
Yep. Keyboard shortcuts. That's nice to see. quality of life. A lot of people are going to prefer using keyboard shortcuts. That's good to have in Flow. The death of the Cloudflow designer, another retiree being shuttled along, put onto that boat and lit on fire.
Yes.
Anything else in Flow we want to cover real quick?
No, I mean, I think a lot of the stuff we talked about in the previous episode. So if you want to, you want to get more deep dive, go listen to Shannon and Jason.
So just to lightning round a few final things that we didn't get to talk about earlier. You can now resize images in rich text fields in Chrome. So just click and drag and you can make them bigger. If you are exporting reports, you now have the option to exclude that disclaimer, so that doesn't appear anymore. RTL language support, right to left language support. This I thought was hugely significant because for years they said they were never going to do it in Lightning. It's not possible. We can't do it. Well, they just released it. So there you go. Prediction Builder in Einstein, you can get one free prediction now. Everybody gets one free prediction above a certain license type. So you can at least try it before you buy it. They're adding something called Sustainability Cloud, which is a new product, but lets you be able to track your company's carbon usage, which great. All right, let's see more of that. You can actually add more components now to Lightning Page Region. I think it goes up from 25 to 100. So that's a big deal. And change sets. No, sorry, we're not going to actually fix your change sets, but they are going to deploy faster. So that is a thing that they're working on clearly. Again, agile.
Change sets.
It's your next pony. This is the next pony on your list, isn't it? Anything else we want to cover before we wrap things up, Brian?
No, just our normal terrible thing. The fact is, there's tons of things in the release notes. It is worth going through.
Read them.
Even if you're just looking at the how and when these features are released, because it kind of gives you the high level idea. You don't want to be caught with your proverbial pants down.
Yeah, exactly. And if you have products that we haven't talked about today, like Quip got a huge amount of updates. They've got a dedicated section. Things like Finance Cloud have dedicated section.
Salesforce surveys.
Things like that. Yeah, exactly. Those are great places to just kind of zero in on, right? Like that's a piece of advice that I don't think people say very much when it comes to release notes is go check out your add-on products. Go specifically look those up because you're going to find things that are big for them.
WizardCast is produced by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, directed by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, technical administration by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, script writing by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, audio editing by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, website maintenance by Brian Kwong and Mark Ross, and our intern this episode was Susan Thayer.
And you can be an intern too. Just follow us at WizardCast_pod on Twitter.
You can also take pictures with us at various Dreamforce or Salesforce events and share them so we can add you to the list.
They don't even have to be pictures like, with us, with you in them. You can just take, pictures where we're walking by and we have no idea you're taking a picture of them. I'm saying this because you're more likely to see Brian at one of these events and not me. So take all the creepy pictures of him that you like. If you have a joke, an interview suggestion, or other comments, please let us know. You can call and leave a voice recording at 608-492-0321 or email wizardcast@thewizardnews.com.
And now is the time. We are gearing up to do our next idea exchange highlight. If you have an idea out in the idea exchange you would like to hear us talk about, let us know about it.
Go to bit.ly/idea highlight to submit that idea to us.
Don't forget to subscribe to the WizardCast and receive our next episode automatically.
And please post reviews on Apple Podcasts, aka iTunes, and share this episode. It helps others to hear what you just had to endure.
Once again, I'm Brian.
And I'm really hoping we get the next release notes episode released on time.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mike. I got another meeting right away. I'll see you later.
Yep. Nope. Yep. Take it easy, Brian.
Mark!
Brian? But you just left. Why are you wearing different clothing and those weird sunglasses?
Mark, you gotta come back with me.
Brian, I've got meetings today, same as you. Back where?
Back to the next release.
Why? What happens to us in the next release? What, we become developers or something?
It's the episode, Mark. Something's gotta be done about the episode. Podcasts are non-linear, non-subjective viewpoint. It's a more of a big wibbly wobbly podcasty whiny me stuff.